fire starter.
I'm a wildfire, hit you like a prize fire. Ooh, baby, I'm a wildfire, straight from the block, no, I cannot be stopped. I'm a wild child, hit you with the hot style. Ooh, baby, I'm a wild.
Okay, a couple weeks ago I made a post on Instagram about using the reverse hyper for leg extensions, and a lot of people liked it. A lot of people thought that you can only use it for your posterior chain. So today I'm going to talk about a couple different ways that you can use the reverse hyper, not just for actual reverse hyper movements, and a couple additional movements and some things that you can do to kind of diversify this machine rather than just using it as a standing desk. So in terms of the weight, loading, and rep scheme for reverse hyper, this is not a 1 rep max device. This isn't something that you need to find a 1 rep max on, or a 5 rep max, or anything like that, right? This is more for accessory work. It's not a primary movement that's going to be in the gym, right? So it's not your big 3, squat, deadlift, and press. That being said, I usually like to work reps of anywhere up to 50 down to around 12 to 15, but I won't go much less than that. So anywhere somewhere in that range is going to be the rep scheme I'm going to go for. And then for weighting it, if you're not sure what kind of weight to use, an easy way to do it is just start with an empty. Do a couple reps, do 10 to 15 reps, put some more weight on. 10 to 15 reps, okay, that was easy. And you can just kind of build up and figure out where the weight starts to get heavy for you on this device. Another way to do it is take around 30, 40, 45% of your max back squat and use that number to load up onto it and do some reps and figure out about where your fatigue sets in with that kind of weight. So in terms of the range of motion on the reverse hyper, there's a couple different ways that I like to do it. One is the standard way. You want to get your legs all the way up to parallel to the floor. So when you do that, you also want to think of arching your back slightly and lifting your head up. And the reason that you're doing that is you're also activating your spinal erectors as well as your glutes, and you're going to feel it in your hamstrings too, right? And another way that I'll use it is when I'm going for those larger sets of reps, those sets of 40 and 50, is I'm not super concerned about the range of motion. Okay, I'm not super concerned about bringing the weight all the way up, but I'm just super concerned with fatiguing the muscle, burning the muscle out, so to speak, and getting all those reps in and not stopping, despite if the range of motion gets to halfway up to parallel, right? Not worried about that, just worried about squeezing my glutes, using my hamstrings, arching my back a little bit, and working all those muscles to a point of fatigue. Okay, so obviously you can do this with both feet in the strap, but let's say you're coming off of an injury, you tweak something, and you just want to specifically work one leg. It can also be beneficial to decrease that loading, keep the same rep scheme, but only use one leg in the machine. That way you know you're getting the work, all of the work on the leg that you want to get it. So another simple movement to develop your hamstrings that often goes, I think, overlooked is just the leg curl, right? You don't need a separate machine to do leg curls. You can actually just do it on the reverse hyper. So you're just going to strap your feet in like you would normal, get your hips on the end of the pad like you would for a normal reverse hyper movement, and then curl your heel right up to underneath your hamstring. That's actually the thought process that I kind of go to, trying to bring my heel right up underneath my butt at the top. The plates start to come up close towards your knee, so you're going to want to move your knees just a little bit to the outside when you do it as well. Just remember for both of these movements, or for all these movements, they're not a strict movement. It's not starting from a dead stop. I like to get a little bit of swing or a little bit of momentum into the weight and then begin my reps. So that's actually another benefit to this, I feel like, versus a leg extension machine or a leg curl machine, is that you don't have to start from a complete dead stop, right? You can add a certain amount of weight, and the weight kind of pendulum or swings like a pendulum back and forth, so that you can kind of keep that momentum and you don't have to go from a dead stop. To me, that makes this machine a little bit safer. It makes the reverse hyper a little bit safer for training those accessory exercises. All right, so the second way that I've found the reverse hyper super beneficial is to do actual leg extensions on it. So all you're going to do is sit up on the butt, or sit up on the pad, and position yourself so that your knee joint is just forward of the edge of the pad. Strap one leg or both legs in and perform a leg extension just like you would on a leg extension machine. Again, I like to get a little bit of momentum before I actually just rip off a rep, right? I don't want to go from a complete dead stop. That little bit of momentum can kind of keep the movement a little bit safer, like I said, especially when you're training a little bit of a smaller joint down at the knee. and not a multi-joint exercise, just a single joint. So a little bit of momentum and then knock off the reps. I'll use the same kind of rep scheme, anywhere from 50 reps down to around 12 to 15. In terms of the loading, again, I would highly recommend you just start with no weight at all and slowly kind of build up and get a feel for what's going to be heavy for you and what's not, right? So just kind of test and retest, taking weights off, putting weights on to see what that loading range is. The other thing I like to focus on is when I'm at the top, really focus on squeezing that quad at the top, and then I'm not just going to let the weight fall back down, right? I'm going to provide some resistance on the way down, but I'm also not trying to completely stop the weight, a dead stop at the bottom, right? So you're definitely applying some resistance on the way down, but not so much that it's a super slow descent. So the single leg extension was also super important for me for rehabbing my quad. I ruptured my quad tendon back in 2018. As soon as I was cut loose and cleared to do single joint leg extensions, this machine became one of the biggest things that I used to help not only reactivate my quad, but just rebuild that strength, rebuild that motor ability that I kind of lost from being locked in a brace for so long. And really the single leg stuff is what really made a huge improvement, because it didn't allow me to favor my hurt leg with my right leg, right? So if you're coming back off of meniscus tears, ACL injuries, anything that has forced you to immobilize at the knee, again, would definitely recommend this as soon as you're cleared for it by your PT. All right, so another thing you can do to kind of diversify the reverse hyper is add a band to the swing arm. So what this is going to do is provide an increased amount of resistance as the range of motion goes up. So what this is called is accommodating resistance, and it's used often in like back squats, deadlifts, bench press, those kind of things to help you get through like a sticking point. But this is just another way that you can kind of overload the body, give it a stimulus that it's never had before. Just going to throw a really lightweight band again in terms of loading, start super lightweight and kind of build up from there. Throw a really lightweight band on the swing arm, and again, perform anywhere from 15 to 50 reps. Might not even need to add weight. You could just put the band on. It's going to provide a different type of resistance that, again, starts out easy, and as you get to the top of the movement, it's going to get more difficult. All right, so the reverse hyper isn't just used for the lower body. You can use it for your upper body as well, and a couple different ways we can do that. The primary way is going to be for rows. So developing your upper back, your mid back, those different type of exercises. So simple enough, if you just have the reverse hyper setup and the leg strap, you can just use that as a handle, basically to pull on and perform rows, squeezing the upper back and trying to develop some of those muscles up there. So you can always change things up a little bit with that row. In this situation, I've got some extra chain here. You could use a strap, a band, ring straps, whatever it might be. Throw through, I've got the curl bar here, but you could use a training bar. A broomstick would probably work, as long as it's not too long and it's not going to bend, just to perform like a seated row with both arms. I hope this helped explain a couple different ways that you can use the reverse hyper. It's not just what it's typically used for at most gyms, desk for putting sweatpants, drinks, and that kind of thing. This is one of the most versatile pieces of equipment in your gym. You might not even know that you have one in your gym, but if you do have one, head on over to it, get some reps in, reverse hypers, leg extensions, rows, single leg, double leg, banded. Change it up, mix it up. Again, keep that rep range between, like I said, 12 to 50 reps, and load it appropriately. Start slow, start easy, start with lightweight, figure out where you're at with it, and then continue to progress from there. Guaranteed you're going to make some gains.